Hey everybody, it's been a while since we did an update on the truck and we did the phase 1 video. Now it's phase 2. I'm going to walk you through what we did. The guys are going to show you some installation and yeah, let's get to it. Hey everybody, I'm Bubba with Exodus Jeeps, and we build badass Jeeps. I'm taking you to work with me today as we start installing a lot of the components in phase 2 of our Gladiator build. Some of the things that we installed: Spicer UD60 crate axles, Synergy drag link, Exodus Jeeps tie rod, Redneck Ram hydraulic steering assist, some KMC Machete B-lock wheels that were 8-lug to accommodate the new UD60 axles, a rock hard 4x4 skid plate system, and some Rubicon High-line fenders. Now, we didn't do a video on the fenders and we didn't do one on the Driveshaft, so I'm going to talk about those real quick. The fenders definitely give you, if you have a Sport S or any of the other packages besides the Rubicon, putting the Rubicon fenders on there are going to give you a lot more up travel on your Jeep. If you're like me and you're running a suspension with a lot of travel, I mean, we have 15 inches of usable travel, you're going to want those High-line fenders so you can get all the travel out of it. But we didn't do a video on it, so that's why I'm running over it right now. The other thing that we didn't do a video on was the drive shaft system. So we used an Adams one-piece drive shaft for when we did the rear because it allowed us to get more angle at full droop than the two-piece drive shafts that some of the other guys are doing on the builds. Also, the stock drive shaft was a two-piece in the rear. So having that one piece, we can actually achieve more articulation in the rear without having to worry about binding up our drive shaft if we had a two-piece. So, but unfortunately we didn't do a video on that. Maybe something we'll touch on in phase 3, that way you guys can get a good look at it. And then also we did videos on the Switch Pros and the Redneck Ram. Those are separate videos. If you want to check those out, go to our channel and search around. They're on there. All right, let's get busy. Today we're starting to take the wheels and tires off the Gladiator. We're going to dismount them from the Hutchison B-locks that we had on before. We're going to be putting them on some KMC XD229 Machete B-locks with a raw finish ring. Reason being is because the Hutchison rock monsters that we had on there before were for the 5-lug stock axles. We'll be putting them on 8-lug UD60 axles. So we're going to change out wheels. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. You only get one shot at it, so. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I want to zoom in. I've worked the nuts off this thing.
here at the shop today with Sam Garcia, our welder fabricator. We're drinking some delicious Jolt coffee. We are working on the UD60 axles that are going to go in the Gladiator here for JL. The front will bolt in no problem, but the rear is different. So the bracketry is different. So we came in yesterday morning, we cut all the brackets off, we air gouged or air arced, gouged, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to let Sam talk about that some more in a minute. But we cut all the brackets off with a very unique method that most people don't use, and got the tubes polished up. We got a really nice bracket kit from Evo Manufacturing that's going to weld on here. It's going to allow us to bolt these axles right into the Gladiator without any issues. Sam, you want to?
Yesterday we did some gouging, or air arc gouging.
What is air arc?
It's basically a machine hooked up to an air hose with a stinger-like handle that blows air as you make contact with the metal. So what it allows us to do is that we're able to pinpoint our arc, our heat right on the weld, and it's able to wash out the weld. Lets us get into places where you normally can't fit a plasma cutting gun or a torch. If you've never done it before, be careful about doing this because you could damage some parts. We cleaned up the axle really well. We had a couple of nicks, but we filled them in, polished them down.
Yeah, it's a pretty clean kit, pretty simple, not that expensive. Honestly, I think you'd take any 1-ton axle with the same diameter tubes. Anyways, we're gonna get started and catch up with you later. How's it going, Sam?
Pretty good.
Awesome. All right, so here's a little tip for you guys doing this at home. When you go to weld out your control arm brackets, you'll notice here that we stuck a piece of DOM with a bolt through it. A reason for that is so that as Sam is welding out this bracket and everywhere, especially when he goes to weld the inside of the bracket, we don't want that heat to pull the bracket closed, making it too hard to get the control arm in there later on. So we're going to put this piece of DOM in. As he's welding it out, that'll keep it from pulling in. To give you a good example of what's going on there, if you look at this side, we did it over here, and he's done welding this side. Even after taking that bolt out, the draw from the welding and the heat is still so good, it's holding that DOM in all by itself. Pretty much no matter how you try to do it, you can alternate, jump around all you want to on this thing, but stuff is going to pull. You got to try and mitigate that as much as possible. And like I said, even this one's doing it now with the DOM still in there, but not so much that we won't be able to get it out when it's completely cooled. Maybe you have to tap it open a little bit with a dead blow. All right, Sam's gonna get back to it. Well, Sam just wrapped up welding on the new brackets to the UD60 that we're going to install on the Gladiator. Next up, we'll let everything cool down, throw some paint on it, and then sometime next week we'll start installing them on the Gladiator. Okay, the time has come. We're now going to bolt in our UD60 axles to the Jeep Gladiator. What is a UD60? Well, it's a Spicer crate axle. This particular setup, we chose 538 gears with an knee locker. As you can see, it's massive, it's big, it's going to give us a lot of strength off-road. We got big Ram 3500 brakes on this thing, so we got great stopping power. Originally the brackets, you'll see in some of the other video where we cut the brackets off and welded these on. Well, these are Evo Manufacturing brackets that come in a kit. When you cut all the factory brackets off of here, you're going to weld these on. Why? Because right now, maybe it'll change in the future, but right now, the Spicer crate axles don't come with a JT rear. So we had to buy a JL rear. The JL front will bolt right in, so the JT is not a problem. But the JL rear, we had to cut all the brackets on and weld these on. These are going to bolt right up to where they are right now in this axle. You want to get a look at some of the beef, compare this, then move in here, and you can see the stock axle, which is quite a bit smaller. The tubes are smaller, the ring and pinion smaller, the brakes are smaller, everything's smaller on it. Plus, these are 14 gears. You can re-gear it, but if you're going to be running 40-inch Nitto truck grappler, then you're going to want a 1-ton axle setup, and this is going to get the job done. is bolted in on our shop Gladiator. We bolted up the front drive shaft yesterday. We're waiting on the rear drive shaft to show up from Adams later this afternoon. As soon as it's here, we're going to bolt that thing in and go for a ride. In the meantime, we're going to do some adjustment on our steering, make sure that's good to go before we step out. But I want to go over the steering linkages real quick before we start making any adjustments on them. What we're using for a tie rod is our Exodus Jeep's in-house built 70/75 aluminum tie rod. This is a great option for you guys that like to go off-road, or you're going to go up and maybe bump some rocks and stuff like that. Well, you're going to be able to hit them with this. It's going to give you a little bit of flex, and then it's going to pop right back and not stay bent, unlike a steel tie rod. Next up is a Synergy drag link. What's great about Synergy? Well, they're made in America, heavy duty, fully adjustable in place. So is their tie rod. But this is also what's recommended from Spicer to use for the steering drag link. And whenever we get ready to do a high steer, we'll put a raised track bar bracket on here. We'll do the drag link flip. We'll simply just flip that tie rod end over and put on top. So we'll be good to go there also. So something else to add about these steering linkages is that they are JK steering linkages. This is a drag link from a Jeep Wrangler JK. This is a tie rod from a Jeep Wrangler JK. What does that mean for you? That means that you have so many choices in the aftermarket to choose from. If you don't want these, you can pick literally any of the other drag links and tie rods that were made for the Jeep Wrangler JK. Just make sure that they're going to have the clearance to get around this big diff. All right, that's it. The guys are going to start doing some adjustments, and as soon as that drive shaft gets here, we're going to go for a ride. All right, next up on the basically the end of phase 2, we're going to install the rock hard 4x4 skid plate system for the JT. It's a really neat skid plate system because essentially it's a belly pan skid. Pretty straightforward installation. Rockhard has videos to help you install it. We're going to video a few parts of the installation for you guys to see, and then ultimately we'll take it out and we'll use the system to give you guys a good review of it.
Oh yeah.
Because it's in the drive shaft. Look. Okay, so as we're installing, we noticed that our suspension, since we're running 14-inch coilovers, and we get all of that travel out of them, our drive shaft is actually hitting the skid plate here. So we're gonna make some marks. We're gonna start cutting and trimming the skid plate. Probably gonna have to do a lot of modifying to this area of the skid plate system in order to allow the drive shaft to droop all the way. So it's probably gonna slow us down for a bit, but it's necessary to make sure that we don't get any rubbing or contact from the drive shaft on the skid plate system.
You're saying you want to trim it.
We're gonna have to trim that.
This?
The crossmember?
Yeah, I got it.
We're gonna have to cut a whole section out of it.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. I think first thing to do is to make this work.
Oh yeah. We'll cut that whole thing.
The using of the bandsaw. I'm gonna hold this.
Okay.
Alright, we need to let that one fall.
Yeah.
Is that the farthest that this drive shaft can
Yes.
go down?
Yes,
So
it's as far as it can possibly go.
Might not move that much.
Like, have you seen what I do to Jeeps?
You know, be scratchy.
Blake has pretty much mounted up the skid plate here in the front cross member. It's been modified so that our drive shaft will be able to clearance. The cross member itself, we had to cut a section out. We're probably going to go back and weld some more in later back here around this horseshoe right here on the top side to strengthen it. For now, I'm just going to place some stitch welds along the front to pretty much put the plate mated up with this cross member that rock hard included. Give it some added strength. Okay, well that's a wrap on the installation of the rock hard 4x4 skid plate for the Jeep Gladiator. As you can see, it's going to come all the way up to the front of the engine right here, protect that oil pan, go back, protect the transmission. It covers the gas tank and the exhaust all the way back. I mean, it really just opens up enough for the drive shaft. As you can see during the installation, we did have to notch it up here for the drive shaft to droop all the way down. That has a lot of travel. I think it's like 15 inches of actual travel, vertical travel in it. So the skid plate, they probably weren't anticipating that much travel when Rock Hard designed it. We simply notched it. We didn't really reinforce it around that notch right now. We did weld the cross member to that plate, but I'm hoping that everything's rigid enough. We're not gonna have to really worry about it. If it is, we'll take it back off, we'll pound it out, we'll weld in some reinforcements around that notch, and it'll be good to go. We did install a set of High-line fenders for a Rubicon. That gave us a lot more up travel with the 40s, and even with the 6.5 inches. This thing articulates so well that we really needed that extra room, so we added the High-line fenders. That gave us the LED lights in there. As far as the rest of phase 2 goes, that's pretty much it. We're wrapped on that. That included the installation of the Spicer UD60s, the Redneck Ram, and the skid plate. There will be a phase 3. Originally we didn't anticipate that, but we're waiting on the coilover suspension to be finished for the rear. And once that's done, we'll initiate phase 3. That's gonna involve some more custom pieces, I feel like. We're kind of wanting to do a bed cage that really kind of shows who we are. There's a lot of good designs out there, but we haven't really seen anything that really fits our style and what we want to do with the truck. So we think we're going to build our own system. Going on top of that, I guess in phase 3, what we will be doing is adding the hydraulic bump stops, King bump stops on the front. I'm not sure about the rear. Like I said, that's still in development, so I haven't really seen what's available yet. The Redneck Ram, I gotta say that's been awesome for the little bit of time that we off-roaded. I did notice that as soon as we got this thing installed, we were driving down the road, it stiffened up the steering really well on this thing. Synergy drag link, power tire rod. We will be installing during phase 3. At some point, we will install the Synergy pitman arm brace and track bar brace up here to help stiffen up that steering even more. If you like this video and you want to see some more, be sure to subscribe and like us on Facebook and Instagram.
Don't miss any of Bubba's adventures, builds, and tips. Click here to subscribe. Click here to watch another video.
Stay tuned.